ESPN ScoreCenter is an app I've actually been using really since it came out. The thing I like about it is it's very focused. So, I mean, what you're seeing here is scores. So they're not trying to give you, I mean, there is this ticker at the bottom, but really they're not trying to give you everything about the team. They're just giving you raw information, and that's what I like. The iPad, though, is kind of interesting because I'm curious. I mean, these are all swipes. So do those all end up together? I really want to see what Mark comes up with on this. And then when you go into an individual box score, it seems like there's not much information. And part of that's ESPN, I guess, but maybe with more real estate, we could fit more in here and it could be a little more visual. So ESPN.com ScoreCenter, this is interesting to me because it is a very specific app. So it's like not a news aggregator, and MLB.com, which we're going to do later, has all kinds of information, but this is just scores.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how we take a swipe app and, I mean, is it just real estate, or what are you doing here?
Well, as a sports fan, what I want to see is the sports that I follow,
right?
NFL, NBA, college basketball, college football, in no particular order. So let's go ahead and just throw up our default view as we've determined. So, and let's just break it out. So
into sports?
Yeah, these are organized by sports, not by team.
Okay, so that's kind of like the individual panes that it has right now.
Right. So but I've picked the teams that I want to follow. So my NFL is always going to start off with Dallas Cowboys.
So you're rolling this into each sport, your favorite team. And then over here, is that all the other teams? So this.
Yeah. So it starts off with Dallas Cowboys, and then it filters in. You know, you could even make it smart. So Dallas Cowboys NFC East, and it follows with NFC East, and then
so you're re-aggregating based on having a lot more space.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So you know, college football. You know, I'm a Tech fan, so it's going to throw off with Texas Tech first, and it's going to fill in scores with other Big 12 schools, and then
And do you think there's like a button you push to give you the whole? Because I mean, when you talk about college football, how many?
Sure. Yeah. You can even. I mean, for any of this, you can have a button here that it'll pop up menu. How do you want to organize this?
Okay.
By your teams, by certain conferences.
And I'm assuming you could, you know, whatever fancy transition someone gets paid a lot of money to do,
you can do
to take it to a full screen of that sport.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Top 25 football.
Okay.
Choose by conference, whatnot.
So a lot more aggregation.
Right. Yeah. So it's
different types of aggregation.
Yeah, because I want to see all of my teams, but I'm also interested in how other teams' scores affect my team. So I want to see those on the same, because
which that's not easy right now to do. You have to kind of know.
Right. Yeah. You have to go and completely move screens in order to see any other information besides your team. And I think that's important because it's not just the score for your team that matters. It's, you know, how did the second place and third place teams do?
Right.
So the next thing is, so once you want to click and go a little more in depth.
Like a box score?
Yeah, box score.
Okay.
I mean, what do you want to see? So let's dig into that a little bit.
So, I mean, that actually works pretty well on here. It's pretty simple, but it just gives you, I mean, score and then the basic plays. And if you want information, you go out to the site, which tracks for me.
Right. So there's a couple of different ways that you can approach it, just from a functionality standpoint. Let's draw it up here. Let's just split it in half.
Okay. So you just have the scores, and then you have the player stats over there?
Yeah, so let's have, this is your full team stats right here. Right. You know, or the game stats. Let's say game stats here. And then you split it here, and you have the two teams that played together.
Okay. So you basically just taken the above the first screen and dropped it here.
Just threw it over there.
Yep.
And then over here, what I would like to see is, I want to see all of the players on each team.
Mm-hmm.
This is scrollable. You can swipe.
Okay.
And then when I click on a player, I want to see his picture. And all of his stats.
Okay.
So that's really not that's not adding any new information. That's just laying it all out on the same screen.
Yeah, and this is nice.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, even in the previews, I haven't seen a lot that have sections that are scrollable.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you should be able to do that. I would think that you can, because, I mean, with the added real estate, you've seen in the Apple previews, you can scroll your emails and then scroll the actual email body. So it's possible.
So then what if you rotate this thing?
You know, I mean, we're not adding any new functionality or new features, so I would just rearrange it in a way that makes sense to a portrait
So this
view.
is one, because the way they've broken it up, you're just, I mean, this is closer to a port with a little bit of UI design.
If we were adding video to the functionality of this app, you know, we would have to rethink
and that gets into like
things.
MLB.com, which we're going to talk about, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're really not positioning ScoreCenter as their front page for ESPN.com. They're just, this is just scores.
Okay, nice. Well, I want to see this laid out, because I'm curious how directly you can take these panes over. Like, I mean, assuming ESPN needs us to do this work for them. All right, cool. Okay, so ScoreCenter, I'm loving this. There's some color after the Kindle the other day. This is already making me happy.
Yeah. So I think we started off with a simple score aggregator.
Right.
And instead of just only seeing your teams, I want to see
my
teams
first.
Your
team first, and then kind of the conference.
So
oh, wow.
Yeah, just it's kind of a text blitz here, you know.
Yeah.
So obviously you can tweak it to however you want. This is basically just information design, not necessarily eye candy.
So that's interesting, because I mean, like, where do you think this is good enough? Because like, I'm already noticing you've got a couple of lines of individuals, and then you just start repeating it. I'm assuming you just copy and pasted.
Instead of building out, I mean, I can type in fictional scores for, you know, however many teams you want, but you know, it just gets to a point where enough is enough.
So where is it? I mean, what? Obviously, you did a couple of these. Where did kind of your brain go? You know what? This is good enough for what we need to do.
Really, once you got two, and then it's just, you know, screen real estate. So I mean, more than likely, if you're a baseball fan, you don't just follow baseball. You follow baseball, basketball, and football. So you're having at least 3, probably 4. So once you get 1 or 2 different ones, you can just throw out the rest, and enough is enough. You get the idea.
Right.
So and you know, we added a news ticker down here. I mean, it could be anything. You could make it be anything.
So you'd probably iterate over this a couple of times with a developer.
Oh,
or
yeah,
if you're developing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think let's see, we made it scrollable even. You know, you want to make these scroll so you can go across.
Right. Okay. So yeah, the same sort of usability thing.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. And then we had the in game. I think that was the big discussion, right? Is what's actually happening.
Yeah. So what happens whenever you want to see more information about a game? So let's first off, a box score. You need a box score. Then team stats, and we're just ripping these straight off of ESPN.com and
off the iPhone app.
No, that's actually from ESPN.com. It's formatted pretty much the same.
Yeah, it looks just like the iPhone app.
Exactly. Another thing we talked about, we want to see stats for individual players.
Right.
So here,
that's nice.
you can click on a player, and then it loads, you know, all of the different information about that player. You could put stats over here if you want, maybe seasonal stats, because you have his in-game stats here.
So you could never do. Well, I mean, I guess you could on the iPhone, but this would be so many screens. This comes back to that whole real estate and information design.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can make this swipeable, scrollable, whatever, however you want. You know.
Right.
Another thing that Joe mentioned in his blog is he'd like to see some in-game chat, so he could talk trash to different.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it on the board, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, so
talk trash.
If you want to talk trash to the Eagles fans out there, you can talk about how the Cowboys are running up the score or whatever. So
here's a case where it looks like as a designer you left it pretty wide. I mean, this is pretty stripped down. So is that just sort of here's where it would go, figure it out?
Yeah, before as a designer, obviously I haven't consulted with a developer yet, so I don't even know if this is possible. It's an idea just to get conversation going. You don't want to build out exactly all the little details about it until you decide, we're going to move in this direction.
Right. So this is experimental, so you spent less time on it.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that pretty much wraps it up.
Okay. I like these a lot. I think that's cool. That's something you just can't get on the iPhone without all kinds of moving around. So that's nice. ScoreCenter was interesting to me, not being a designer, coming into it from a developer's mindset of kind of figuring out what is enough. So like I do a lot of prototyping in my code or even test-driven development where I'm building out skeletons and filling them in later. From the JavaScript world, I'm throwing up little alerts. And this was really a case of designing just enough to give a developer or even yourself an idea of where you're going and then being content with that. So we built out one row in detail and then copy and pasted those, and that was really it. So I think I'm real type A. There's a tendency to try and over-design to make your comp look beautiful, and unfortunately your comp doesn't get you anywhere on the iPad. So do just enough and then leave it and get to work.